I'm going to show you how to set up outposts in Bellwright so that you can automatically collect the resources you need really easily and effectively. In this instance, I'm setting up an outpost right by a little lake in order to collect a river reed, because that's used for crafting linen and also simple arrows, which I like to have a lot of. In order to create a good outpost, you essentially need a couple of different buildings, a stockpile to store your goods in, a housing tent, which can hold up to 2 villagers, and then the buildings that you're going to be using. In this area, I'm putting down 1 housing tent and constructing it, along with 2 foraging camps and a stockpile building. And what we're going to do here is set up this area to collect river reeds and automatically transport it back to the base. And this is really straightforward and easy to do, but there are quite a few steps that are worth knowing in this process. So you can see under the settlements list, I have a few different outposts already. I've got Mining Town under Lime, Middle Diddle on the Wibble, which is my main base, and Wheatland upon Field, which is another one I've set up to collect wheat. You can select and set up multiple outposts across the map in different rich environments to collect various different resources. But here I'm creating a brand new one, and I want to show you the logic for doing it and how to make this a lot easier. When you create a building in a new area, it's automatically assigned to your new base. So you need to make sure you set it up and assign it to the outpost. So here you can see we've got this foraging camp. I first need to find it, this foraging camp number 3, on the settlement list. If you go through your settlement list here, under the building, you'll see that in my main base, this foraging camp has appeared there. Now, if you create an outpost when you first do this, you won't have this problem. But here on the right-hand side, you can see you can do switch settlement, create new outpost, and I'm going to call this reading just because that's where we're collecting reads from. So it's just a silly naming convention that we've come up with. But I need to assign both the buildings to that settlement. So both the foraging camps that I've crafted and the housing tent and the stockpile. If you create a building, assign it to an outpost, and then build buildings around it, they should automatically be assigned. But if you're having problems, it may be worth going to each building individually, looking up what the building name is by just glancing at it, going through the list, and then assigning it to the relevant outpost. This just makes sure that everything's on the list properly and that all the organization happens, that the bots don't get confused. It neatens things up and it makes it work really well. So here I'm just going through making sure that all of these buildings are assigned to the new outpost. So the idea here is we're going to assign 2 villagers to it that will sleep in the housing tent. One will work in one foraging camp, one in the other. Then they'll both deposit what they've collected in terms of the reeds into this stockpile. That will then automatically transfer back to the main base, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. And that makes it a lot easier to make sure you stay on top of basically having loads of river reed, which can be used in crafting other resources. Now, you can use this in different locations. I've also got one set up to collect iron ore, for example, in a different location, and another one set to collect wheat. So it's worth looking around the map and seeing where these rich resource areas are. Under the deliveries tab on readings on the new outpost, I'm setting that to automatically deliver food from my main base. So you can search for the food types that you know you have created at your main base, select your main base as the origin point for that food, and then I'm essentially sending a couple of bits of food every day. So you see you can set it to daily from the main base to this outpost. This means that when your villagers wake up in this outpost, they have food immediately so that they won't go off hunting for food, wasting loads of time during the day, and they can just get straight to work. So this is really important to do. Make sure you select food you know you can easily get, berries, mushrooms, maybe some cooked meat, whatever you're producing a lot at your main base, and then just set it under the deliveries tab to automatically send to the outpost. And then under your main base, search for the thing that you want, so in this case river reed, which is what we're going to be collecting here. Select the origin point as the new outpost, so reading, and then set how many is going to be set from there via the deliveries section. Now this works automatically at midnight. The set amount will be sent back. It is worth noting there is a delivery capacity though, so you can only send so many from each of the outposts back to your main base, and this depends on how many people you've got, so that might limit the options in terms of what can be sent back. But this means that you don't have to go out and look for this stuff, and it also means you don't have to send people from your main base looking for it, so they would have to travel long distances. It's basically optimizing the collection of the things. Then you need to find some villagers that are either not got a job already or are really good at what we're going to be doing. So it's worth looking at their attributes and assigning them to the new outpost. So essentially what I'm going to do is assign 2 people to this outpost, to that little house that I built. They're going to live here and this will be their main place to stay. At the foraging camp, we then set them a task. So I'm going to set them to collect river reed. That's all I want them to do. I'm setting a ridiculous amount of 301 river reed to be collected, and I'm setting that as the main priority. It's the highest thing, it's the most important thing for them to do. And then I'm going to go and repeat this process at the other foraging camp, but I'm also going to throw in a little bit of wood, because wood and river reeds are used in crafting simple arrows, which are really important to me, and they're really useful for hunting and other things. So just make sure we get a lot of that collected on a regular basis. So now in theory, the 2 people will wake up with food from the main village, and then they'll have a task to do where they'll carry that out and they'll go about it, and then it automatically will get sent back to the main village as long as you put it under the deliveries list. So those are the important things. Make sure the river reed and whatever else you're trying to collect is set up under the deliveries section here, under the deliveries tab, and it will automatically transfer. It doesn't need to be taken by you or by the bots automatically back and forth between the base. So here you can see pretty simple setup in terms of this outpost, nothing too over the top, just a housing tent, 2 foraging camps, and the stockpile. Now it is important that you do keep in mind you need to assign jobs for the people. So as well as putting them in the place, I'd recommend going into the settings for them and making sure they're assigned to do those jobs. So the job priority here is harvesting is the most important, but also deliveries is really important. That way they'll harvest the things and then they'll deliver it to the stockpile, and then it's from the stockpile where it'll be sent off. Now, another couple of notes are in this other one that I've got. So this outpost here is specifically for mining. I've got them set up to pick up iron ore. You can see the building hasn't been built yet. If you get your base to send back some hammers, then the villagers there will help to construct the building that you're trying to build. So when your building is fully constructed, it is worth watching out for this. So for mining huts, for example, what you'll find is you need to supply them with sturdy pickaxes, and otherwise they won't be able to complete the job, especially for the iron ore, which is really important. So there's iron ore, tin and granite in this location, which you can see on the map here. It's just above Horndean on the right hand side. We've got iron, we've got granite, and you can find tin in this location as well. So I'm trying to get them to collect all 3. All I've got is a housing tent, a camp chest, and a mining hut. So you might want to go for the stockpile instead. But it's important to make sure that for this settlement, which is Mining Town under Lime, that we have deliveries set up so that they can get, for example, the sturdy pickaxe, and we'll get that from the base. And let's say we just send a couple of them weekly, and you could set it up that way. It might also be worth sending broken sturdy pickaxe back to the base, so maybe we could do 2 of those a week as well, and that way you get the broken ones come back to your base and repaired ones go out to the outpost, and therefore they can carry on just collecting that and sending it back to base with relative ease. You need to make sure that the people in the area that are assigned to Mining Town, for example, are set to the harvesting ability, because that's what you've got for that, and also delivery. Delivery is really important as well, so you want them to do the harvesting and delivery. Otherwise, what I've found is that all of the ore will just end up in here. It won't get sent to the chest. If it's not in your chest or your storage container, then it won't get sent back to the base.